motion before the House is this House believes the economy of Ghana stands to be revolutionized upon the signing of the Economic Partnership Agreement. Now, before I move on to present my substantive argument, I'd like to define certain terms in the motion. Under the Economic Partnership Agreement, since you're going to have removal of tariffs and have 30% access to the European market, what this is going to do is that we're going to have a large chance of non-traditional exporters being able to export their goods out into the European market, which is going to accommodate 71% of our non-traditional exports as it's doing now. And it's going to also further the national economy. And as we all know, the cost of production is going to become cheaper as a result of this because we don't have any quotas or tariffs to pay to them. And any economist should know that. And also, under the IEPA, which is the Interim Economic Partnership Agreement, which has been around for 7 years now, the non-traditional exports has quadrupled from $500 million to $2.1 billion. And I mean, if this does not revolutionize any economy, it's going to have to take a miracle of Jesus to do so, which Ghana is obviously not going to see. The signing of the EPA is also going to give 75 access to our economy today. And given the subsidies that is being pumped into the petroleum and other manufacturing companies, we're going to be able to import oil and other inputs and equipment for our industries at cheaper cost because what is happening is that our companies and our manufacturing industries are being very lazy because they know that once we don't have any other alternatives, such as the electricity company of Ghana, we're always going to rely on them. So then they're able to joke with our lives and give us doom all the way. And all we can do is to put our hands between our thighs and just hope that we have generators to come to our aid. But then under the EPA, what's going to do is that we're going to be able to import such products such as oil, inputs, equipment for our industries at cheaper prices. And this is going to make them less redundant. And all the subsidies that are being pumped into our government are going to be put into... Yes,
you were saying that subsidizing our companies will make them redundant. Don't you think that allowing more exports from the European Union would rather come and kill them?
On that side, I'd like to say that if they are already redundant, so we are having cheaper exports. So the subsidies that were initially being pumped into that industry, given as expensive products, are going to be put into other aspects because we're getting the same subsidies that are given about cheaper products from the European Union. Yes. So now, as I think I was really interrupted by the POI, we are going to have more money to be put into other industries to develop ourselves. And then once we start having the cheaper better services such as oil, petroleum, electricity, which we intend to move on to in later days. We're going to have better services for our people and better life. So on that, I'd like to end another speaker. Thank you.
We will now call on the leader of the opposition to address the House.
Right, Honorable Speaker, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the government side, members of opposition, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. I stand as a proud leader of opposition to set the record straight. Prime Minister came to tell us that if we sign the Economic Partnership Agreement, it would revolutionize our economy, and we think that that is purely false. But before we go into any of such matters, we would like to define the state of economy we are finding in Ghana right now. Here is an economy that has been downgraded by Fitch from B+ to B-. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about an economy that has that IMF has raised red flags over. Our debts have overstretched such that we are taking loans to pay the interest of loans that we have taken. That is the point. Ladies and gentlemen, here is an economy where the Trades Union Congress are threatening the government to increase the minimum wage or face their wrath. Here is an economy where utility tariffs are hiking. Here is an economy, ladies and gentlemen, in whose that is the minister in whose hands the economy is. Honorable Secretary is asking for help because the economy is in jeopardy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about an economy whose CD is drastically depreciating. Finally, we are talking about an economy in whose Chief Executive Officer, the President of the state, is saying the meat is down to the bone. Now, how do you tell me Economic Partnership Agreement will revolutionize the economy? No sense in that. When we are talking about revolutionizing anything, we're saying it is a great change in the conditions, beliefs, etc. of the status quo for the better. That is an overhaul that affects a large number of people. We have been talking about the Economic Partnership Agreement, and it is important for us to know that the Economic Partnership Agreement came as a ratification to the Lomé and Cotonou Agreement, which was signed some years back. Now, this was supposed to create some kind of reciprocal thing between the European Union and the African and Caribbean and Pacific groups of states. But before I go any further, let me give you some of the arguments that the Prime Minister has talked about. Laughable as they are, it is a pity the Prime Minister will come make such arguments. Ladies and gentlemen, she says that, rightly so, that the African Union will have 100% access to the European Union. That is true. You can't say. I'll tell you later. But the point is that it is not about access to the market. For Africa, it is about the productivity. She talked about our non-traditional exports, which I agree, but the point is that at the moment we are not even meeting the market in the European Union. So why don't we rather establish our infant industries? Why don't we encourage them, give them the necessary funding, and make sure that there is good leadership, there is prudent leadership, so that we can be able to meet the market that is in the European Union. This was the argument of the opposition, and we believe that if we sign the Economic Partnership Agreement, we have signed our death warrant.
Yes, exactly. Don't you believe that with the EPA agreement, our local industries will actually be involved in a healthy competition so that they produce good?
Thank you for your point. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about competition, but you don't play a super heavyweight champion with someone who is now learning an amateur in a boxing ring. Ensure that we have empowered our local industries such that they'll be able to compete with multinational companies in the European Union who have comparative advantage and economies of scale. You cannot, by any means, be signing a partnership agreement with someone you are not empowered. Ladies and gentlemen, we are saying that if we go ahead and sign the Economic Partnership Agreement, it will kill our infant industries. Here is the typical example. Super heavyweight champion versus an amateur. You don't put them together. No prudent person does that. We're saying that if we go ahead and sign the Economic Partnership Agreement, it will be a tool of exploitation. Here is the example. Ukraine consistently depended on Russia for the supply of gas. Now, what has Russia done to Ukraine? It has increased the supply of gas by 80%. There are a lot more markets out there in Americas, even in Africa, and we must be able to exploit these. This is what we are saying. Sign the EPA, sign your death warrants. Thank you.
We will now call on the Deputy Prime Minister to address the House. Shall we have order in the House?
Thank you very much. Now, before the opposition leader comes and lies to you about the iPad, let me give you the reasons why you should not even think about the iPad and you should stay with the EPA. So in the first place, the EPA is not going to cause any unfair competition in the market. The 35% is going to affect products which are being produced already competitively. And among those products are processed goods. Now these processed goods are already being sent to the West. And actually from 2001 to 2010, our non-traditional exports have increased from 500 million to 2.1 billion. So already we are trading with them and we are also getting gain from that trade. You come here and talk to us about Ukraine. Saying Ukraine suffered from a hike in petrol price. Now with the EPA, before any part of the agreement changes an amendment to it, there has to be an agreement between both parties. The EU is not going to hold us ransom to the EPA. They cannot stand up and change any aspect of it arbitrarily. It has to be a consensus between both parties. Yeah,
don't you think that 7.5% you are saying, 7.4% you're talking about could be the necessary sacrifice that the citizens can make for the revolutionization?
Necessary sacrifice, what do you mean necessary sacrifice? What I'm saying is that 7.4 cedis can be taxed by the government, and that is that sacrifice the consumers are making. Now, no, the government can tax 3 cedis, and they also save 4 cedis, and that 4 cedis, as I said, will be saved, and it being saved, it will lead to more investment. The next point you're saying that was EU is a better trading partner. In the sub-region, countries like Nigeria are already preventing us from importing less 2 goods. And Ghana also has a system where we need a 1 million capital startup before you come and invest in our country. So with the EPA, we have a better trading partner, a partner which will not be limiting our quotas, imposing tariffs upon us. We have a partner which has removed all the tariffs. So we are saying that what, let's go with the EPA because the EU is a better trading partner. Also saying that what, the EPA comes with political, democratic aid, and in this, we all know that what, Ghana has decided to go the democratic way. And libertarians and capitalists all over the world have said that what, and economists, they've said that what, economic development comes with democracy. It is a fact set in stone. Now with the EPA, you should know that what, our elections are funded by organizations like Danida, which is from the European. So, ladies and gentlemen, I, Shafiq Osman, stand on behalf of government, and I'm proud to propose. Thank you.
An honorable member, with the deputy opposition leader, to address the
What I stand to do is present you with the benefits of our IPAP policy. Now, the IPAP policy states that we are going to invest in human resource 1, we are going to promote agriculture 2, we are going to add value to raw materials, and in the end, we are going to expand our ports. Now, for the investing in human resources, we seek to concentrate or zoom into our human resource sector. Now, you keep hearing Unemployed Students Association. We have educational institutions in this country which seeks to improve the human resource base. But what are we really doing with it? Our side of the house is seeking to zoom in on that and exploit that and use it to the benefit of our economy. Now, at a particular point, China decided that they were going to become a hub for cheap labor because they had the advantage of a high population, so they could produce at a cheaper price. India also decided to do the same when they zoomed in on ICT. Nigeria even did the same when they became the best in banking for the whole of Africa. We intend to improve our human resource base and even export our human resource. We can decide that, okay, we have accountants, we have people who have done their MBA in various courses, we have professionals. Therefore, we are going to offer them at a cheaper price to other countries. Now, the EPA talks about exclusively dealing with the European Union. We have other options. We have Asia, we have Africa itself. Why should we just think about the EU when we have better options? Now let's decline. Now we move to agriculture. We can decide to expand the agricultural sector in the sense that most of the time we decide to produce raw materials which are not competitive anyway, which are not competitive anyway. Even from the farmhouses, they do not reach the market sites. How do we intend to compete with the whole of West Africa and even the EU? How do we intend to do that? So our policy states that we will promote agriculture, and then the next move is to add value to our raw materials. After investing in our human resource and promoting agriculture and adding value to our raw materials, we are going to expand our ports so that we can give out more to the wider world. We are going to expand and just embrace the global market so that we can benefit. Now, he said that 25% of our economy is going to be protected in the EPA agreement. This is 25%, he said 25%. This is a great fallacy indeed, because even in our current state, our economy is 20% protected. But look at the number of Chinese products which are allowed into the country. He said that we are going to be open to competition. What competition are you talking about? We cannot even compete with the European decline. We can't even compete with the European Union when Nigeria, our sister country, right here in Africa, right here in West Africa, is banning 92 of our goods. How dare we compete with them who have a better cost advantage than us? EPA does not state that it's going to allow free movement of persons. It says an open market. And he kept talking about foreigners coming in, foreigners coming in. Foreigners are not coming in. We are rather suggesting that you do outsourcing. Now that is a penny for your thoughts. We're just saying that invest in human resource, promote agriculture, add value to your raw materials, and then expand your ports and just release everything. Now, with these points, we believe that we have convinced you at the opposition side to join us in enforcing the IPAP policy. Thank you.
We will now move to the closing half of the debate. and we'll begin by calling for an address from a member of the government side.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to present outside of the argument. Now, the motion for the debate has been the economy of Ghana stands to revolutionize upon the signing of the EPA. In my position as government member, I'm going to make a few extensions to the point that were made by the opening half of the government. I'm going to rebut the point that were made by the opening opposition, and then I'm finally going to give the new dimension that we on the closing side of the government are going to bring to this debate, and show you why us, the government side, especially the closing government, should win this debate. Now to a few extensions. The European Union as a
On that point, madam.
Consists of about 500 million, that's half a billion people. And so if we say that African, Caribbean and Pacific countries are exporting to the EU, we're having a very large market which our goods can be sent to, which means that our produce that we make in Ghana, in Nigeria, wherever in Africa, will not stay at our ports and rot or get depreciated. Now the next point she said was that we can import oil and other items that we do not make in our sub-regions at cheaper prices. And this is very true, because if we are having free markets with the European, if we are having free markets with the European Union, it means that the tariffs on their imports are off, which means that we don't need to pay as much as we used to pay for oil, and petroleum, which means that it's actually good for us as a subcontinent. Also, the DPM came talk about foreign investors coming in to invest in our business, which did not really talk about people moving in as much as them bringing goods and services to us. So it's saying that the foreigners are not coming here is really flawed. And we're talking about the fact that consumers will be saving up to 7.4%, and hence we can have local investment in our sub-regions. Now, talking about the point that the opposition leader came to make, that there will be lots of revenue if we take the EPA. Now, the next point, you said that they are bringing a new policy to the floor. And then we on this are saying that actually this debate is very positive. Fine. The policy that you brought is no different from the EPA, because it's also talking about agriculture. The EPA deals with this. It's talking about expanding our trade. The EPA deals with that. It's talking about human resources. The EPA deals with that. So you're not seeing how you're saying that the EPA is wrong when you are actually coming here to blow the same pipe. Now to my new dimensions.
Very well. You talked about taxing the people. Already, tariffs are taxes that you impose on imports. If you're saying that for the white man's goods you are not going to tax it, but you are going to tax the citizens, are you in a good government?
The point is that 75% of the imports that we make are not going to be taxed. So there's still the point of 25% being taxed. But talking about the taxing of local investors, if as a country we tax our local investors well and make the rules such that tax evasion and tax avoidance is avoided, we can still gain the revenue that we are looking for without actually taxing foreigners. And as such, we can be self-dependent on our own investors, on our own local producers. Now, talking about the new dimension we are bringing on this side, the closing government of this debate, we are saying that we are going to take into consideration for Ghana the Vision 2020 that was set by the past president, Professor EPAs. Now, the vision says that, Vision 2020 says that the government will have assimilated economic growth, improved quality of life, reduce poverty through high private investment, aggressive and rampant industrialization, as well as direct and aggressive reduction of poverty in Africa or in Ghana as a country. Now, we are saying that in this way, under assimilated economic growth, the more local producers, as the opening government said, will be more encouraged to make exports. Like the farmers will take more exports, the fishermen will take more exports, producers of kente and textiles will make more exports, meaning that our growth as a country is moving on. And then the next point, talking about improved quality of life, allowing some form of free trade between us and the European Union will actually help us to create jobs in our country. Because as the industries come to invest in Ghana, as the exports come in, there will be traders, there will be service workers, and this will give the ordinary Ghanaian on the street money in his pocket, which will help him to improve upon his quality of life. He can have 3 square meals a day. He can have a house to live in, take care of his family. So to improve the quality of life of Ghanaians.
Oil is a conventional export policy, and so it doesn't really affect them. That's why Nigeria actually has the biggest economy now. Nigeria has the biggest economy now, and so they are not. In the know of the effect of signing the EPA, states emphatically that we are not signing the EPA because it doesn't actually affect us. And Ghana just developed oil, and so they are going to come in and do what with the oil. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, it does not pass through all the segments of the economy. And so the EPA does not actually stand to revolutionize anything because it's just a part of it that will be changed. Also, the sustainability of the
Exactly. Now, do you accept the fact that Nigeria is a totally different country from Ghana in terms of land size, in terms of population? Don't you know that the EPA, the way it will affect us, will be totally different from Nigeria?
Now, the matter at hand is, look at this. If we are smaller and we haven't been able to use our resources, we haven't been able to grow or to improve upon our human resources and build the best brains, do you think that we can actually go on and do anything? Even though we are making a comparison with Nigeria, which has a larger or a heavier size and all that, we are saying that Ghana hasn't been able to manage its small resources. It hasn't been able to grow other companies, other small-scale businesses. And so opening up the borders or giving tariff-free export or 75% of 75% of is not an incentive to improve our standard of living. It doesn't do anything at all. Now the EPA is such that it will end in 2022. Now, the effect of the contract agreement would move away when the EPA expires, right? Now, if we are going to sign something that we think will revolutionize the economy of Ghana, this side of the house says it will. Now, we are saying that it wouldn't because, so we go up to 2022, and then what? We cannot, if we haven't been able to start up our own things, if we have not been able to improve upon our human resources, if we have not been able to grow our small-scale businesses, after the EPA expires, then what? Then we are back to square one. And so all the points that the opening side of the house has, the government side of the house has raised today, is actually a myopic thing because they are looking at this particular range of years and not looking at Ghana in the next 50 years, Ghana in the next 100 years. We are looking at growing small-scale businesses for the next 100 years, for the next generation to come and enjoy from Ghana. And so, ladies and gentlemen, this side of the house believes that this signing of the EPA is a dead round, like the opposition leader said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable member of the opposition. We will now have the final speech of the government side by the whip of the government.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now, according to the World Health Organization Research 2011, an amazing number of people in Ghana have actually died as a result of malaria. So malaria is actually termed as the most deadly disease which kills Ghanaians quickly. In addition, 10% of Ghanaians are actually exposed to just good sanitation. So it means the 90% that is left are actually exposed to a lot of diseases. Moving to the economic aspect, and now a large number of people actually live under $1 a day in our country. Are we being fair to all these people? You and I? No. Now, the main issue is revolution. This house believes that the economy of Ghana starts to be revolutionized by the signing of the EPA. Revolution, ladies and gentlemen, the rapid change of things that are actually happening. The current status quo that already informed you about. Now the thing you are actually forgetting in this house is that every economic agreement has its own pros and cons. We have decided to weigh the pros and cons and say that yes, the EPA may actually have some petty disadvantages, but the advantages are a lot and way better for you and I as Ghanaians. Moving on to my role, my role here is simple: to juxtapose both sides, assess the arguments, and bring out the truth to educate us in the now, the government side did a very amazing job by informing us with the definitions, revolution, the direct benefit and the rest. That's 100% of access to the EU market. In addition, they have the view that an increase in the traditional export of our country would be promoted as a result of the signing of the EPA. Why? Because these people are motivated more. The exportation of your products and the rest are actually cost less. So you are motivated to produce more so that you export more. So the traditional things like cocoa, coffee and the rest would actually be promoted and exported. In addition, they bring the light to the house informing us that oil and petroleum imports will be cheaper. Trust me, every economic activity in our country depends on fuel. Fuel from oil, movement, industrialization and the rest. Now if you're able to get a lot of oil and petroleum in our country at cheaper prices, the economy will be boosted. In addition, they raised the issue that consumers will save 7.4% of purchasing things in our country, which is very true. Trust me, the prices of goods are appalling. Inflation is over 10% in our country. Goods are expensive. And the major reason why these things are expensive is as a result of the duty and tariffs on these goods. Now, if they actually take these things as with the EPA, we actually get 7.4% reduction on things we purchase as Ghanaians. In addition, they raised the issue of political aid, where there will be more diplomacy and we'll be able to get aid from these partner countries. Now let me move on to the opposition side, which is the open opposition. They raised 3 main points: loss of revenue, a tool for exploitation, and we should rather focus on developing our raw materials. Now, the EPA, for the loss of revenue, the EPA actually takes away duty tariffs. The absence of duty tariffs is an amazing way to get more money. How? Foreign investors would be motivated to come into our country, release their products and goods and machines to set up businesses in our country. When they are coming, there's no duty or tariffs for most of the goods they are bringing. So it costs them less cheaper to come and set up these agencies and the rest of our country. So we actually gain revenue from taxing these foreign investors, which is very true.
Yeah. First, you talked about malaria, which I find interesting, but don't you think that it is rather important we invest in our own African people so they can do research like with Gucci, so that we can eradicate malaria by ourselves? Is it not a shame? We always go to the European Union?
It's very perfect. We should empower ourselves. The EPA in no way stops us from empowering ourselves. Very appalling. This is a different program, but think about imports and exports. This is empowering ourselves. Anything we go to empower. A tool for exploitation, they are point. They are hoping that 100%, listen, you said they will exploit us, but we have 100% access to their market. That means we are exploiting them because we only give them 75%. So we are actually exploiting them. But listen, it's a bilateral agreement between 2 organizations. Why don't you sit down and think as a country and say that this is an agreement, we all benefit from these things. So let's make sure that we scrutinize everything so that we benefit and we are not exploited. That is the power that you should empower us as Ghanaians. Develop our raw materials, that's the major point. The thing is that raw materials, whether EPA or no EPA, are still being developed. The EPA would rather promote the development of raw materials. Why? Because the tariffs and duties on exports will be cheaper. So the raw materials, these agencies such as Golden Tree, cocoa drinks, electricity, blue skies, that's you all drink, will be exported less cheaper and will get more money. So the raw materials will be exported. In addition, closing opposition quickly. They raised 3 main points. Nigeria as an example. Nigeria has 179 million people in Nigeria. They invest in their oil and we invest into their grain. Listen, I'm not saying we shouldn't invest in our grain, but the truth is that they have a larger number of people and a larger market for their goods and services. We are only over 25 million in Ghana. We can't compare ourselves to Nigeria when it comes to the EPA. In addition, they raised the issue of sustainability. The sustainability is actually a benefit. The fact that it will end in a short while is actually a benefit. Why? The pros and cons. If we see that it doesn't benefit us, then we opt out of it. However, if it benefits us, there's a clause where we can actually renew this and ensure development. She talks about the fact that it is myopic in nature. Trust me, it is a stepping stone to development. Why? We focus on the fact that this sustainability and the rest, it comes to an end. We renew it and the rest, so it's not myopic in nature. Now, the more reason why we should be as close in government is simple. The EPA will go in the long run to support our 2020 vision, which was laid out by President Atamos, as stimulated economic growth, improved quality of life, reduce poverty, that is through jobs and the rest, and industrialization. The political aspect is the fact that Listen, all these things are under the auspices of our politicians. If we do not ensure a good political system, as my government member said, we won't be making headway. Why? Because this EPA would come in. The politics would actually ensure that corruption and the rest would increase in our country. So we are looking at the way that the EPA as a package will come in and safeguard politics in our country. Ensure that these politicians are checked indirectly, directly from these companies we actually work with in our country. Because trust me, no matter the trade that goes on, no matter the investment that goes on, if our politicians are corrupt, we won't make headway as Ghana.
We now invite the final address of this House by the whip of the opposition.
The chair, the House. The motion before the House is quite simple. And I'm very sad because this side of the House has managed to mislead the House by skirting around the issues. The motion is simply stated. This House believes that the economy of Ghana stands to be revolutionized upon the signing of economic partnership agreements. And the key issue here, of course, is about revolution. And the question is, what is revolution? Now, my job as an opposition whip actually is simple. I'm here to criticize the argument on both sides and weigh the pros and cons on both sides. And tell you why this side of the House should be, particularly the closing side of the opposition. Now, the Prime Minister in her submission has warned that she came here to deceive us well by telling us that the definition for revolution as this. The revolution means to change the structure of something. To change the structure of something. This is actually very confusing. You cannot tell me that revolution is synonymous to change the structure of something. You can do it's not revolution. She mentioned the status to say that there's an existing subsidy platform for a mention for that oil price as an example. Now, let me bring it back to the kind of argument we're having right now. In this type of motion, we have policy debates and value debates. It's a value debate. They're not talking about politics. They're not talking about politics. Don't come and give us a different benefit. We are debating from the court. And as such, I'm going to help. She talked about, she's making a run, but she actually consolidated my fact by actually leaving out the fact that there's supposed to be a plan. She's gone against her own standard and her own system. She mentioned benefits and said that there'll be 100% access to the EU market. But they even access to the market, they should trust themselves to the food by saying that this is not reciprocal because there's going to be 100% subsidy or access to the EU market from our side, that's our exports. But when they import, we get only 75% access. And that's not reciprocal. And sometimes it's not reciprocal, doesn't go both ways. Cannot be a revolution. If we have this particular side, how can it be a revolution? Revolution means a two-way turnaround, a total overhaul. It cannot be true. It cannot be a revolution if it happens to one side, as in 100% agreement. Now coming to the Deputy Prime Minister. It is sufficient because we get rational response. Talking about the 7.4% global expenditure towards that. And the question is, why are we submitting Ghana? Let's not talk about OSIWA or Nigeria. We are talking about the fact that we are comparing to Malaysia. Let's talk about that. Why are we submitting right now? Right now, because we are practicing a socialist democratic system. We have had a lot of taxes. And I'm getting to the implement intervention, there's something more and more. I want to ask, is Greece not part of the EU? And does Greece have a stable market? Yes, it's a now, exactly. We'll talk about if you're promoting investment, revolution, and the fact that revolution implies expansion. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I don't know where they're getting their grammar from. But revolution does not mean, okay, now what are you telling us? First, your Prime Minister comes to that revolution, your Prime Minister tells us that revolution refers to changing an aspect of the economy. We also come and tell us that revolution implies an expansion of the economy, which is very direction, so get your act very.
Thank you very much. Whip of the opposition. That brings us to the end of this debate. The judges will step out and deliberate and then return their verdict on the debate.
Thank you very much, Chief Adjudicator, Mr. Dimisama. But once again, I think we need to give our participants the champion round of applause.
books here for them as well. So, and other prizes that they know themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for your time.